Well, that's a great question. In the first place, let me encourage you to ask questions. The secret of growth is learning to ask the right questions. And what I would say is 2 or 3 things. First, you need to learn to ask questions. The Bible says counsel in the heart of man is like a deep well, but a man of understanding will draw it out. If you're wise, you know how to ask the right questions. Second thing you need to know is you can learn from anybody if you know the right questions. You know things I don't know. I know some things you don't know. Everybody else knows things we don't know. Everybody's ignorant just on different subjects. And if you are wise people like Socrates, learn how to ask questions. And you can draw it out. I have a friend who went and served as an intern for a pastor in Waco, Texas. And he was there for nearly a year, and he said, in the entire year, I never heard the pastor preach a dud. He said every sermon was over the top, Spirit-inspired, deep, meaty, helpful, life-changing. And he said on the last day before he left, he went into the pastor's office. He said, I want to know your secret. And he said, what do you mean? He says, I want to know the secret of your ministry. Why are your messages always so good? And the guy said, well, I don't have any secret. He said, yeah, you do. Yeah, you got a secret. And I want to know your secret. What is your secret? And the guy said, I don't have any secret. And Billy got mad. He said, yes, you do. You have a secret, and I'm not leaving this office until you tell me what your secret is. And the guy was a humble man, and he said, well, he said, you know, I made a commitment to the Lord years ago, almost 30 years ago, that I'd read through the New Testament once a week. And he said, I've never missed a week. Billy said, I didn't even know what to ask next. I was so stunned by that. I'm going through the New Testament once a week for 30 years. And he said, well, what translation do you read it in? The guy said, well, usually the original Greek. He's going, now I'd been there in this time is an entire year with this guy, and I could have left there not knowing that. So you got to learn to ask questions and realize that it doesn't have to be a pro or somebody famous for you to learn from it. There are men and women in your church that will teach you lessons that will save your rear from embarrassment in ministry. The second thing I would say is you need mentors, models, partners, and friends. Each of them have different roles. Mentors, models, partners, and friends. Mentors are people who are alive and mentor you. Second, models. I recommend you have no living models. I recommend that all your models be dead because you don't know how their life's going to end up. I've seen people who modeled their life after a person who then flamed out morally or spiritually or something like that, and it left them devastated. There are plenty of people in church history to have as a model. So mentors, models, partners are people who work with you, co-workers, and then friends who just say, you know, you're a good egg even if you are a little cracked, and they're the people who walk in when everybody walks out, and they're going to love you unconditionally. You need all 4. Now, the third and final thing I'd say is don't have one mentor. Have 10. Because nobody is good at everything. And when you ask, where do I go when I have a question, it depends on what the question is. There's some questions I go to business guys for. There's some questions I go to pastors in ministry that I go to for. There's some questions I go to women for. There's some that I go to just members of the church. And so it all depends. I have found, for instance, I've been very fortunate to simply ask people to be my mentor. And you'd be surprised how many people would say yes if you just step up and ask. For instance, Billy Graham mentored me in spiritual leadership. And I would call him, and I would talk him up, and I still, about at least once a year, go visit his home, sit down with my list of questions. He's getting harder of hearing, and I sit close to him, and I say, tell me about this, you know, and how do you handle this? And Billy Graham understood some things that nobody else understood in dealing with politicians and being a world statesman and things like that. On the other hand, Peter Drucker was a mentor in the area of organization. He taught me the importance of organization and how to organize. And when he died, and he was over 90, I was still going to his house and sitting down and talking with him and taking notes and asking questions. My father was a mentor, a man named Billy Hanks was a mentor. A man named Harry Williams was a mentor. And in different stages of life, you need different things. Don't feel they have to be your mentor for life. Different mentors for different subjects and different mentors for different seasons.